I opened my eyes, and I am greeted with a picture of Laura on my bedside table. Morning, sweetheart. It's been 7 years since her tragic death. Yet, I still dream of her waking me up every morning. Morning, Daddy. Our daughter, everyone says she takes after me, but if you replace her blonde hair and blue eyes with brown, she's the spitting image of her mother. Except without the food, allergies. Morning, Princess. I said as my daughter gave me a morning kiss on the cheek and we sat at the table for breakfast. Morning, Mommy. I smile watching my daughter greet her mother's picture on the mantel. Philip walked in and said, Morning, Mr. Stone. Morning, Margot. Morning. Sir, here are the stock projections. Philip said as he handed me the stock statistics. My eyes narrowed at the stock that the Ross invested in, has made profit again. I should have made my investment at least 50 million, have I known that it was going to grow this much. We left our mansion to go to the city. I hadn't moved out of my marital home with Laura, the old stone mansion, despite the commute to the city. Even though my office and my daughter's school is there. That house holds a lot of memories from Laura that I couldn't bear to part with. Her clothes are still in the closet, and are washed if needed. Daddy, are you okay? My daughter asked worryingly. I'm fine, Princess, you have everything you need with you? She nodded. We then drove to the city. We dropped her off first at her school. I will do my best to make sure that she gets the best of everything, especially in her education. After dropping her off, I went to work. I had to sign papers and attend a boardroom meeting and an investment deal at noon. Mr. Stone, here are the last of the papers you need signed for the day. I looked at the clock, it was already 4. We then drove to pick up my daughter from school. She was talking to that boy again. His mother came late. With access to my connections, Ross investment firm grew into a reputable investment firm within 2 years. Ian Ross doesn't strike me as a businessman who makes decision, rather he follows it like Philip. Always an employee, but never the boss. His wife, she is more about traditional stay-at-home housewife who does nothing but spend money. Their son, on the other hand. That boy has a bright future ahead of him. I feel uncomfortable seeing him with my daughter. We got home and at dinner Margot was telling me about what happened in class. She then asked about my day. Uneventful, I said. I stare at my wife's photo before going to sleep. Chapter 5. At the weekend I sat alone in my room, bored as hell. Every bone in my body was working against me to try and study. My father, passing by my door, saw me lying in the sofa while staring at the ceiling. He then said, Princess, you want to go to the mall? I quickly got up. Daddy wants to spend time with me, I said, as I smiled. I then hurried to change my clothes. We then went to the mall. Father carried me in, seeing a man carrying his daughter like a princess. Will earn you points from both married and single women. In normal circumstances, fathers won't go to the mall to go shopping with their daughter, that task will be left to the mother. If there is no mother present, then the daughter goes by herself. That's how normally things would go. However, I hit the jackpot of all Papa Wolfs. I heard him say to Philip once, just because Laura isn't here to shop and bond with her, doesn't mean she can't experience those things with me. Yes, since I first transmigrated, Morgan has been playing the role of both mother and father for me. Everyone stared at us as we walked in the boutique. Mothers laughed, single ladies smiled, and the young girls looked at me with envy. As they watched me pull things left and right, as Dad and Philip stared at their phones. Why did we bring Philip along? Because he is both a working and personal secretary, he also has taken the role of my nanny and my bodyguard. Since my mother died from attempted escape from kidnapping, Morgan forced Philip to become a AAA certified Humpton bodyguard. Why not just get an already certified bodyguard? Because Morgan doesn't trust anyone to look after me except Philip and my grandma. If I hadn't known that Morgan was still pining over Laura, I would think that he and Philip might be gay. He lives in the same house as us, cooks our meals, and looks after me when my father is too busy or when he's abroad on business trip. When I was done, I brought all the pretty dresses, and all pairs of their limited edition shoes and accessories, including a limited edition LV sling handbag that just arrived at the store. All summed up to $1,100. Just when I thought of going to a cafe for some cake. Dad said, "You want to go to the Toy City next?" I just nodded and took his hand. Although I had no interest in playing with toys, I still had to act like a child from time to time. I brought a new release educational stuffed animal, along with an electric scooter. We then went to the Apple store, where I brought a new 16-inch MacBook Pro. Another sum of 15 grand. Then we stopped by a dessert cafe on the way out. Aunt Alex has grown accustomed to hosting gatherings. She hosted lunch at an expensive restaurant in the mall right next to a game center. "What a great idea, Alex, we can sit here and chat while the kids are in the bounce house," a lady applauded. Luis has been cooped up at home lately and he doesn't like to interact with kids, his own age except for Margot. Yes, Margot has also been exhibiting the same behavior. The specialist said that it's normal for them to feel out of place when confronted by normal kids. Then again, that's what Whitehall is for. The teachers say that Luis and Margot behave like normal kids in class, it's just that their lessons are advanced. Hearing us bubbling nonsense, a lady asked, "What are they talking about?" Aunt Alex said, "They're speaking French, totally excluding us." Whitehall decided to offer up French, Spanish, and Latin to replace English since the kids took it as nap time because they found it boring. They mastered English in 1 semester, they are already writing essays and whole thesis. The Ross investment firm has grown rapidly within 2 years. My little Luis wants to sit in during business meetings. He sometimes participates in it, even offering suggestions from time to time. He even understands business statistics now. I'm so proud. Yes, Mrs. Ross, your son is quite remarkable, a lady said with an indifferent expression. And so well behaved. I can barely get my son to pay attention. Grandma then said, "Wouldn't it be nice if he ends up together with my Margot?" I almost choke on my milk upon hearing those words. I then look at Luis, who was indifferent as he spoke in French. I thought this was the 20th century, not the 14th century. I couldn't help but giggle at his joke. Unbeknown to the adults, we were just commenting on their conversation. One lady didn't seem particularly happy at my grandma's comment. That was Mrs. Smith, Henry's mother. In the original story, she was against Jane marrying her son because that would mean the loss of Stone Enterprises' support. Well, Henry was chosen to be my fiancé, not because it will benefit the business, but because he was the most outstanding candidate, and I supported him. In fact, our marriage alliance was more of a help to his family business, but not to mine. Stone Enterprise gained nothing from my engagement to him. However, this time Henry is not the best, but rather Luis, who had passed up the chance for their daughter to marry a marketing genius. Not that I plan to get married, but I don't want to be at the mercy of a man or a plot. The Smiths are constantly having to please the Stones. Unlike most families, the Stones are old money, and the Smiths got their start through the help of the Stones. In short, they are dependent on us. However, the Stones are notorious for having sons. Daughters are a rarity in this family, but now there is only one heir, thanks to my father's reluctance to remarry. When the gathering was over, I watched Mrs. Smith holding Henry's hand as they walk away. Like this story, comment, and subscribe to be notified when the next chapter comes out.